Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about what do you do if you get sued? It can be a very scary experience, and not always being sued is never fun. Litigation is not enjoyable. So we're going to talk about that today. And I'm going to give you some tips, some ways of making it a little less painful if you do get sued. First and foremost, if you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy, and I help you create the business of your dreams. Now, the reason why this is a discussion, even though I don't do litigation any longer, I used to do litigation, I don't do litigation anymore. The only reason why this is an important topic for a business owner is because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will get sued. 3/4 of all businesses get sued when they're throughout the thing. So the smart thing to do is prepare as though you will be sued and hope that you don't ever get sued. And that starts with a plan ahead of time. But even under the best circumstances, you can't always anticipate every possibility. And I'm not suggesting that you lie awake at night and worry and try to anticipate every way you could be sued, or that you bury your head in the sand and say, oh, it won't happen to me because blah, 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 blah. The best people to are the ones that prepare for it, have executed a plan, and make sure that they're doing it. If you're not in one of those groups where you've executed a plan and you've got all of your right things in place, don't worry. So the first and foremost, the thing that you need to do is don't panic. It can be very scary when that process server brings you that paperwork and says, here you go. Okay. Don't hide from it. That just makes it worse, because then they have to go through a lot more work, trouble to find you, to serve you, or they'll find a way is the point. There's lots of ways that you can technically be served. And so the issue is personal service is the easiest. It goes the smoothest. Now let's take a moment back, and let's just say you get a demand letter, like a letter that says that we're going to sue you unless you pay us money. The same thing applies. Don't panic. Don't feel like that the worst is about to happen. Demand letters are typically, the amounts anyway, are overinflated to what the actual value of what you could settle the case for. So don't worry that amount is final, right? That's the amount that they're going to do. But the key is to make sure that you address it in a timely manner. If they give you a date, or if they give you a timeline, that you make sure that you are looking at it and working within that timeline so that you don't get sued if you can avoid it. If you've already been served papers, then make sure that you are following these next steps. If you've been served, or if you've received that demand letter, review your relevant communications and or documents, contracts with regarding that matter. So it's very important that you sit down and look at those things and see what they're alleging compared to either in the demand letter or in the complaint. Complaints typically mirror demand letters, so you're not going to see too much difference between the two, other than like the language that's used for a formal complaint versus the language that's used for the demand is going to be a little less informal. It's still going to cite law. It's still going to say, hey, you screwed up, you owe us money. But at the end of the day, they're going to be very similar in what they say. You want to review everything. You want to sit down and look at all of the different facts and look at everything where you've had interaction with these people and see your potential exposure, see what they're saying with it. Now, this is before, you want to do this before you consult with an attorney. You want to gather all of that together so that if you consult with an attorney, which is my next point, and I highly recommend, that your consultation with the attorney is as fruitful as possible, right? You want to make sure that you're getting the information that you need. And the only way the attorney can truly do that is if you give them the information, all of it. That's why I say assemble this before you consult an attorney, because if you have to go looking for it, or if you can't find it, or if you haven't done your due diligence, then their advice is going to be as not as useful as it could be. The next thing that you want to do is make sure you're asking friends or family members for a referral to an attorney. Now, that attorney may not be able to represent you. He may not be able to help you, but he may be able to, or he or she, sorry, I didn't mean to just do that. But they may be able to give you a referral. Referral is just as useful as having an attorney, because we know other attorneys, right? We're in that little club, if you will. So you want to make sure that that you get a referral to somebody that either they've worked with or they trust. I have a network. I have people that I've referred other clients to, and they've had really positive results. And so I will recommend them frequently because of the way that they've treated my clients in previous matters. So it's very important that you build that trust with them to be able to move forward. If you don't have anyone that knows an attorney, Google is a decent resource. You can read reviews. You can find local attorneys. You can look at what other people have said about them. I wouldn't use that as the gold standard in the sense that, obviously they're going to put positive reviews on their website. I mean, that's just a fact. You're going to. But you can get a good idea. If they have a lot of 1-star reviews or no reviews, that could be a red flag. So I would just use these as evidence to support your decision, not necessarily the deciding factor. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that you schedule a consult with your top choice. Now, and this is perhaps an unpopular opinion. Not everybody gives free consultations, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And I recommend paying for a consultation, and here's why. Because then if you pay for a consultation, they can give you legal advice. And they know you're serious. If you're just a tire kicker and all you're looking for is free, then you're not going to get the same quality or you're looking for contingency representation. You're not going to get the same advice in that instance, because it's just going to be a qualifying thing as opposed to here's actual legal advice. Also, most attorneys don't take, in fact, no attorney takes anything defense related on contingency, because there's nothing to get back out of it. The only plaintiff's counsel takes things on contingency. So paying for a consultation is going to get you the best thing. And what I do with my clients, or what I did with my clients, is if someone pays me for a consultation, then I apply that to the matter, the price of the matter later, so that people can get what they need, and then it's not costing them anything extra. And I think that that's fair, because then if you don't hire them, which is fine, you don't have to, they've gotten something out of it, so they've gotten a reason to help you. They've gotten that help, and then you've gotten actionable legal advice. That's the big difference between a free consultation and a paid consultation. I typically will only do paid, because then I can give you actionable advice. And then if you don't hire me, then my hour of my time has not gone to waste. And so what I mean by actionable is I actually give you steps that you can take to do something. And so that's very key. That's why you want to pay, as opposed to trying to get free, which they are just going to see if you qualify, if it's a case that they want to take, as opposed to giving you actual legal advice. The next important thing that you want to do, and this is probably a good tip, is have your attorney or yourself, if you decide to represent yourself, which you're allowed to do, respond to the lawsuit or demand letter as soon as possible. And you do not want to let it lapse. You don't want it to go beyond the date. So many problems can be solved and cost a lot less money if you will if you'll follow up with things in a timely fashion. People that, and this is actually my next point, don't ignore it, is really what it comes down to. A lot of people will bury their head, and they won't, the proverbial bury the head in the sand, and they won't address the the demand letter or the lawsuit in a timely fashion. And it just starts getting worse from there, and worse and worse. And it's a terrible snowball effect. And that's the last thing that you want to do. So by doing it promptly and doing it quickly, you're going to save money, you're going to save time, and you may even avoid litigation entirely, or you may avoid, if you've already been sued, you may avoid what's called a default judgment. And so those are what you want to avoid. You want to avoid getting a judgment against you without having responded. And that's what's called the default judgment. So these are just some of the tips that I recommend that you pay attention to make sure that you're represented fairly, and also so that don't panic. Don't feel like it's the end of the world. A lot of things can happen before you worry about getting a judgment against you, or before a lawsuit is filed if it's a demand letter. But the important part is don't ignore it. Address it as quickly as possible. Be on the phone the next day, or the same day if you receive a demand letter. And the same thing kind of goes if you're on the plaintiff side of things. If you're looking to sue somebody, and I know this is about being sued, but if you're looking to sue somebody, there is what's called a statute of limitations that can affect the outcome of your case. And so you don't want to wait until the last minute to file, because then it gets a lot more expensive. And the same thing goes with if you're being sued. If you wait till the last minute, it's a lot harder for me. I have to drop other things that I'm doing in order to provide you with the legal service that you need. And so that usually comes at a premium, because I have other clients that I'm already working with, right? I mean, it's not fair to them to drop something that needs to get done if because you waited till the last minute. Now, sometimes, I'll charge people a premium and say, okay, you get to go to the front of the line because, it's urgent. And it depends on the situation. So keep that in mind. But, every attorney is different. So if you don't find one that you like, that you fit with, and this is very important, is that, personality-wise of an attorney can be a pretty big deal. You want to find somebody that matches your personal style as a human, right? There are some bulldog attorneys. There are some more like, hey, let's try to figure this out and solve the problem. And so you don't always want a bulldog attorney, because they can end up costing you a lot more money. You might win, but especially if you're defending, you might win, but then you're spending a lot of money to win, versus you could spend that same amount of money and be done with it sooner and quicker. And it's a lot less painful. Once you're out of litigation, it's a lot less stressful and a lot less painful. So pay attention to those types of things. If you're hiring, like for instance, when I did litigation, I am more of I don't want to say peacemaker, but I'm more of I want you to come out of it with the best outcome possible. That doesn't necessarily mean winning. That means, making the best decision. Like if you can have it go away for less money than it costs you to defend it, then that makes sense from a money perspective. And things that I frequently tell my clients is, how much is your pride worth to you? And I mean that if you truly want to win, is it worth the money? And, are you willing to spend the $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, in some instances, to litigate something, when you could just move on with your life and pay a lot less money? If you've gotten value out of this video, please don't forget to hit subscribe and like, and the bell, so that you can get notified every weekday that I go live. And please stop in. I go live at 11 every weekday, except for holidays, to answer your questions and to discuss topics like this that are important for your business to be successful. I look forward to you, and we'll talk to you soon.